If you have Smash Mouth dreams, please stay in your state of inceptualization because it's coming. We're a Smash Mouth team. And in honor of Smash Mouth, I'll say it because it needs to be said. Casey Dunn looking kind of dumb with his finger and his thumb in the shape of an L on his forehead.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things cowboy and cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you very much for stopping by to make this your first listen here on Locked On Oklahoma State. You could be anywhere. Glad that you choose to be here. We're available on every single podcasting platform, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on Twitter at AllDayOState. Yeah, so sometimes we like to look back at like famous quotes, but I was thinking maybe a nursery rhyme might start us off here. You ready for this one? Patty cake, Gundy's a man. Make me a W as bad as you can. Roll him up, coach him up, and oh hell, I don't know. Maybe teach him to tackle one time if you can. This is a direct result of the lack of tackling. And I understand that from a safety perspective, this is kind of the precautionary measures that we have decided to do at Oklahoma State University. There's some colleges that still continue to do full on, take you to the ground, beat you up, break you down. You got to have depth to do that. Well, we have depth at quite a few positions. So I'm kind of confused as to why we just started waiting till last week to start tackling. And guys, it's been very intense, right? We talk about the tenacity and the effort and just the mean nature of the team. That's not what we've rolled out recently. We got out hustled, out coached, out physical against Central Arkansas in a win, rotating 3 QBs. And then we go to Tempe, Arizona, and we basically do the same thing again. And we talked on the show live last night. The disrespect is real. Arizona State should have felt disrespected by Oklahoma State, thinking we can roll in with 3 quarterbacks and still get the dub. Well, we did, and we did. So it is what it is. But at the end of the day, the hitting is absolutely atrocious. Our tackling is bad, like real bad. And I know that Gundy was very candid in his interview, which I gotta give props. There'll be a few times in this episode where we give props, and we'll also rip on OU a little bit later too. That'll be fun. But yeah, the hitting needs to be an emphasis because our missed tackle game is bad. And don't get me wrong, Cam Scadaboo, that running back, he's fun to watch. The bowling ball terminology fit him very, very well. And I do think offensively, that they have some firepower. Jaden Rashada is very good. Jalen Conyers is the tight end. Speaking of that, I was very disappointed that we didn't go for tight end game at all. We didn't utilize our tight ends whatsoever. And again, if you go back and look, they were open a decent amount of the time. We're saving them for something, or they're just not in the game plan, right? It's one of the two. We're saving Josiah Johnson, his big coming out party, for something, or it's all smoke and mirrors, and we're not actually going to utilize the tight end like we thought we were going to coming into the season. You can't get a good grasp on what we're going to do, and neither can South Alabama, neither can Iowa State, because we don't even know what we're doing, y'all. Defensively, yes, Brian Nardo made some wonderful adjustments. He made some wonderful calls. We looked much better in the second half. But missed tackle thing is rough. So I do know this week there will be an emphasis on tackling all the way to the ground, which is good. Like we tried it last week, and obviously the result on the field equaled the same as the week prior. We're in shape, right? Everybody that is a starter is conditioned. They've been through the body by glass. They're ready to get this thing rocking and rolling. So let them go. Let them eat. Let them rip. And if we have injuries, guess what? We're going to have injuries no matter what. You can't always protect. That's why getting a lead and getting your starters out of the game is a pretty good recipe for success. we're rotating like crazy. It's another game we get like 70 some odd dudes in, right? Against a Power 5 team that's about to be in the third best conference in all of college football. We didn't treat them like that, but that's how it went. And yes, Casey Dunn, goodness gracious, man. It looks dumb. Like he's looking like he's too unintelligent to figure this thing out, which I know is not exactly the case. But I would love for somebody to tell me why. We worked on a lot of power stuff. And I understand we're having a quarterback competition, so you got to let him air it out a little bit. But guys, if you look at the Big 12 slate or even the national landscape slate of the weekend, how many times did you as a fan say, oh, goodness, I wish we had that offensive coordinator? Guys, KU throws multiple sets, multiple looks. They run the ball from multiple angles. They give you different things to pay attention to. It is a little bit of eye candy, of course, but they're good at manipulation of the defense and understanding what Jalen Daniels wants to do. He even manipulates the defensive line to do what he wants them to do, predicated on what play. But they have different formations, and they go a little bit wild with it. Same with Utah. Utah had different formations, different packages, different quarterbacks. They run a multi-quarterback system. And I'm sure somebody's going to say, yeah, well, they barely beat Baylor because of it. Yeah, but they were also far more offensively well-rounded than we were. Like, we're still very regimented, very predictable, very boring. I legitimately assumed that them going to this old school offense and Gundy breaking down how he did it when he was an OC and how he did it when he was first the head coach and OC, I thought the simplification offensively would be beneficial for Casey Dunn. Thus far, it doesn't appear that's the case, because thus far, it appears as though that Casey Dunn said, screw all that running stuff. I want my playbook from the last 2 years. That's what I want to do. And I mean, the result is the result. The result is it looks dumb. And here's the last year, I know that Gundy is famous for getting on the headset and saying, no. We're not going to run that play. Do not call that. Do not do that. Not the right time. So Gundy has an override problem, right? It's an issue. But I don't think that's it right now, right? Because he said that he had to jump into the offensive staff in game 1. So that tells me that the game plan that him and Dunn kind of, in the summer sat down together and went over, whatever that was, Casey Dunn said, I'm not doing it. It's like he's trying to prove that he can run his offense without having to go to the power stuff. And like I said, Gundy even said, I told them at halftime to basically cut the crap, right? We need to start going more inside. We need to stop trying to get cute. We just need to, keep it simple. And it worked. This is 2 games in a row that Gundy's had to adjust that offensively at halftime. That's not a good sign for Casey Dunn. That proves that Casey Dunn's not all that innovative. Casey Dunn's either being limited or he just doesn't quite understand how to get defenses to do what you want them to do, like Utah does, like even Baylor did. UTSA has a lot of manipulation. Guys, Oregon has a bunch of different packages, a bunch of different looks, a bunch of different position groupings that they'll throw in there. Washington, like you look at the top teams in the country, Texas even had multiple looks and multiple backside play action play calls. Like, we're the most vanilla offense in the entire Big 12 by a lot. And again, if you're going to be simple, like Kansas State, you better be daggone good at something. If the defense knows what's coming, you better be good enough to do it anyways and they not be able to stop it. We're not doing that. Is this a Dunn problem? Is this a Gundy problem? Last year, I think it was a multitude. This year, honestly, Gundy's being very transparent in his most recent interview. He talked about some of the formation and some of the schematic things that they needed to adjust and fix and correct and what went wrong and why. He broke down some of the players by name and what they could have done. Like, I'm digging this new Gundy, y'all. I'm digging at least the Gundy we saw in interviews the other day. But this doesn't appear to be a scenario where Gundy's getting on the headset and saying, hey, no, not do that. It's the opposite. It seems to be Gundy's now saying, dude, what are you doing? So maybe we're seeing some growth out of Gundy, but not so much out of Dunn. Is this stubbornness? If it is stubbornness, then it is on Gundy, right? Because Gundy should have fired Dunn and Dickey last year, but he didn't, and McIndoe. And then when people want to give Coach Dickey a hard time, yeah, he's not good at pass protection. He's clearly not in his wheelhouse teaching pass pro. It ain't going to happen. He's not magically going to wake up tomorrow and learn how to teach pass pro because clearly we're not very good at it. Now, what do linemen like to do? They like to grab their dude and drive a dude or get to the second level. That's it. And if they're pulling, they want to pull. They want to get right behind the center after the action and get to that dude. O-linemen like running the ball because it makes their job super simplistic. Offensive linemen are big dudes. They don't like a bunch of different levels of nuance. They don't like it. They don't need it. Simplicity is the key for them. Running the ball simple. That's the difference. So why does Ollie Gordon only get 9 carries? Well, we're about to get into that, obviously. But ladies and gentlemen, I do have to remind you that you can watch the game, you can drink some brouhahas, and then end up not having the hangover and the not so fun stuff that comes after it. Now is your time for the game changer of the week, brought to you by Athletic Brewing Company. Guys, they've completely revolutionized the non-alcoholic beer game. Not that I knew that was a big game to be in, but nonetheless, it is a market that continues to grow, and they make non-alcoholic beers that actually taste good. Athletic Brewing Company has ultimately changed the game for you if you don't want the crazy hangover stuff afterwards. They make non-alcoholic beers that actually taste good, full-flavored and well-crafted, full-strength beers. They're award-winning and great tasting. It's hard to beat out the best full-strength beers in the company, but they do it. They brew over 50 styles of craft, non-alcoholic IPAs, golden sours, and more. If you're watching a big game and your kid's with you, you know, this is the best of both worlds that you get to have. And again, the no hangover thing's kind of a big deal. Have you changed your drinking game yet? If you haven't, you need to. And right now, you can find Athletic Brewing's non-alcoholic brews at a store near you, or obviously buy it online at athleticbrewing.com. First-time customers can use our code LOCKEDON to get 15% off your first online order. That is Locked On, all one word, at checkout for 15% off at athleticbrewing.com. It's near beer. Exclusions and conditions do apply. Athletic Brewing Company is the right fit for all times. All right, guys. So one of the things that I think needs to be talked about as it pertains to the quarterback situation is none of them looked bad, right? I think that should be something that we all take a little bit of solace in. The fact that all 3 of them are serviceable is a good thing. Now, without rewatching the game entirely and finishing all the film stuff, what I'll say is Alan Bowman may have the best presence on the field, right? He may have the best zing on the ball. Gunnar Gundy may be the most comfortable with running the show offensively, and Garret Rangel's still our best quote-unquote quarterback. And before I do the film deep dive and stuff, I need you guys to let me know if I even should. Should I even do another film second by second kind of deep dive type of thing? Because the same people that ragged on me all last year for the last 10, 11 months, telling me I was stupid and I didn't know anything about what I was talking about, because I was saying Gunnar Gundy was not only a good Division I quarterback, but he could start at most places, and TCU really wanted Gunnar Gundy. Everyone, not everyone, but 95% of people were telling me, I don't know, my butt from a hole in the wall. and that Gunnar Gundy had no business even touching a Division I football field. Those are the same people now that are saying Gunnar Gundy should start. You don't know nothing. You don't know what you're talking about because Garret Rangel's not good enough. Like, come on, y'all. Get out of here with this. So you let me know. Should I do the film review stuff or does it not matter? Do we have sections of the fan base that are going to pick whatever quarterback they want and be absolute darned if the evidence is not supported by it? Is that just kind of where we're at? We're going to ride Gunnar Gundy, kind of like K-State did with Will Howard, saying he's not good enough. He shouldn't be here. You know, he's a waste of a spot on the roster. We could bring in another quarterback. And even if he's not taking up a scholarship spot, he's a waste of space. Well, if you're part of that camp, you were wrong. And instead of just being like, hey, you know what? Maybe this evaluation stuff isn't for me. Instead, you're going to turn around and say, Cody's dumb because he believes in Garret Rangel. Even though I said last year that Gunnar Gundy was better than Garret Rangel, and Gunnar Gundy should have been playing over Garret Rangel last season. It's maddening, guys. I know every fan base has some people, right, that do some hooting and hollering, and they just say stuff for the art of saying stuff. I get that. But, guys, it is what it is. This is the same Gunnar Gundy that was producing last season. The difference is last year, nobody liked Gunnar Gundy. Nobody wanted Gunnar Gundy. The first snap of this season, nobody wanted Gunnar Gundy. Nobody liked Gunnar Gundy. Everybody was saying that if his name wasn't Gundy, he wouldn't even be on the team, which is ridiculous. It's the exact opposite, y'all. If his last name wasn't Gundy, he'd probably already been playing more. Mike Gundy is reluctant to play his son. He said it last year on the sideline before the K-State game. Verbatim to Robert Allen, I'm going to start Rangel primarily because I want to avoid the negative connotations that would come if I roll Gunnar out there. So, knowing that, does that change the situation we're in now? No. Gunnar Gundy's still Gunnar Gundy. Gunnar Gundy's still a good Division I quarterback. Gunnar Gundy looks the most comfortable with the guys around him. But we're not giving Alan Bowman the same offense that we give Gunnar Gundy. When Gunnar Gundy's in the game, we run the stuff we've been running for the last 3 months. We run a little bit of it with Rangel in the game. But when Garret Rangel and Alan Bowman are in the game, we're not running our power stuff, which is what we've been working on. So again, I don't know what the play is here by Mike Gundy. I really don't. I do think that this next game, it's only logical that you allow Gunnar Gundy to start the game and you allow Alan Bowman to close it out. Because so far, the closer has looked to be the most benefited in the two games. You know, statistically, Gunnar doesn't have maybe some of the numbers per se that Allen or Garrett do, but he has a very good feel offensively. The players seem to adapt pretty well around him. I did hear somebody kind of mention that because the left side of the line is a deficiency and he's left-handed and he's looking into that zone. I yes and no, not really, right? Because you also saw Jason Brooks move from right guard to left guard. So we're obviously willing to manipulate the line predicated upon who's in at quarterback. So I don't know that his success is simply because the left side of the line is not very good, right? And he can see it quicker. Now, there probably is some validity to that, right? There's got to be some benefit to Gunnar being a lefty. We're not throwing the ball as much with Gunnar as the other two. So here's the deal. Gunnar's running the offense that we've been running for the last few months. Alan Bowman and Garret Rangel are still running iterations of last year's offense. Now, why? Right? Is this are we doing it predicated upon skill set? Are we trying to drive this based on the best packaging? Because if that's the case, Gunnar Gundy needs to be the guy. Like, do I still think Garret Rangel's the best quarterback on the team? Yes. Yeah, yes, I do. And for people saying that he can't throw the ball longer than 5 yards. Those were the same people saying Gunnar Gundy could not play Division I football. So miss me with that bull honky. Like, it's preposterous. So what it is it seems to be people want to jump on what they like as opposed to what is best for the Cowboys to some degree. Not everybody. Guys, some people think the world has fallen. Like, if you look at some of the national punditry, they're talking like Oklahoma State might not even win 6 games. And I think it's great. I think it sets us up very, very well because here's the deal, right? I'm still on the 10-win train because we're winning with 3 quarterbacks. Now, let that sink in for a second. We are beating a team with the same offensive and defensive line size with 3 quarterbacks. And then we're beating a Power 5 team with a higher recruiting class than we have with 3 quarterbacks. And then we're going to go play a team that has probably the most Division I transfers in South Alabama. And we're going to do it again. And then we're going to start conference play against Iowa State, who typically, perennially, has a pretty good defense. And guess what? We're going to do it again, likely. If we win, right, 4 games with playing 70-plus players and rotating 3 quarterbacks, 3 running backs, 3 linebackers, 5 safeties, 5 corners, if we're 4-0 while doing all of that, this is a good thing. That means we're better than what the score says. We're better than what the stats say. And that's where I'm here to hammer home this idea. Guys, y'all got me out here defending daggone Mike Gundy. I think Gundy should be held to a higher standard. You guys all know that. I think that 1 title should not be acceptable. Bedlam record should not be acceptable. But it is what it is, and we are where we are. So I would prefer Gundy turn it around. We win the Big 12 title. You know, we make a case for playing in the CFP. I'm a happy camper. Give us another big, fancy Big 12 title trophy, and then he can have his 5-year contract. It's just too far and few between. But right now, what Gundy's doing is pretty daggone smart. In this transfer portal era, right? It sucks that you got to kind of cater a little bit that way, but it is what it is. There's nobody on the roster that can come out of non-con and say, I didn't get a fair shot in Stillwater. Nobody can say that. Absolutely. Now, nada, nobody. Including quarterbacks. Guys, we all know that we brought Alan Bowman in to be the guy, to teach, right? It's the same thing they loved him at Michigan. He was like another coach on the field. Is that an added benefit to this scenario? Yes, it is. But I guarantee you, Mike Gundy never sat down in his kitchen and said, I'm going to bring in Alan Bowman, and then my son or Garrett are still going to pass him. That's not a conversation that Gundy necessarily thought about. He hopes, of course, you hope your son's going to be better. Of course, you hope, your 4-star quarterback from Frisco, Texas is going to be better and bigger and more developed. But he also loves seniority. He loves accountability, leadership. He loves the fact that Alan Bowman is a Brandon Whedon mold old man that gets in the building at 5 a.m. with his cup of coffee. Mike Gundy loves all that stuff. Mike Gundy wants Alan to be the guy. But Garret Rangel and Gunnar Gundy have done too much all offseason and thus far this season to just make Alan Bowman the guy. So again, Gunnar Gundy looks the best, but I think that's also partially because he's the only one of the 3 getting the offense that we've been running for the last few months. Right? I think that if you give Alan Bowman or Garret Rangel the same play calls, the same positional groupings, the same style, then maybe the rushing numbers look different, right? But we cannot rush for 0 yards in the first half. I don't care what you're trying to figure out throwing the ball. Like, that's bad. That's a bad look. Tell you what's not a bad look, though, is making the money, honey. And ladies and gentlemen, I do have to say, I had a wild weekend betting. I had a wonderful weekend betting. in comparison, I won a lot of money. And we'll break it down here a little bit. But guys, if you haven't downloaded FanDuel yet, come on. What are you doing? What are you doing? It is your opportunity with all the craziness that's going on in the game of football to get involved. Guys, here's what I'll break it down to you. I bet $6 yesterday and won almost 60, right? Like one of them, I bet a 4-leg parlay. I picked Washington State. I picked Cincy. I picked Texas. And there was one more. There's one more that I picked. Anywho, I picked a 4-leg parlay. I bet 10 cents, not $10, but a dime, the minimum you can bet. And I won like $8 off of 10 cents. All right. I have so much fun with it. But anyway, sorry. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 back in bonus bets guaranteed. All of the customers who then bet the $5 will get $100 off of an NFL Sunday ticket through YouTube or YouTube TV. Now is the absolute best time to join FanDuel. The app is easy to use, and you can bet on everything from money lines, player props, point spreads, futures, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season with the offer you're not going to want to miss. With FanDuel. Again, it's at FanDuel.com/lockedon, the official partner of the NFL. Okay. Again, here's why I think that we can view this from a not so bad lens. We're winning in spite of stuff, just like in 2021. We won in spite of offensive coaching. Our offensive coaching in 2021 was nothing short of horrendous. If you don't have Jaylen Warren, we might not have an offense, okay? But this is a scenario that we might win in spite of the perception, because it looks like we're not coaching. We look like a train wreck. Like I'm telling you, you guys probably already know. But if you go look at all the national punditry type stuff, they're all talking about how Mike Gundy's crazy and we're rotating three quarterbacks and we're going to have a bad season and this is a terrible sign and we're not going to be able to get it figured out. And Alan Bowman didn't take a snap for 2 years and you expect him to be the blah, 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 blah. Like this is a conversation that is currently happening. And that's fine. Because I think it does nothing but help boost us in the end. 2021 non-con wasn't pretty. 2021 didn't have much of an offense. We're showing glimpses when we're more power-oriented, right, which is Coach Dickey's preference, which is the offensive lineman's preference, which is, a lot of the people in the backfield's preference. When we lean on it, we're fine. And again, if we think as a coaching staff that for whatever reason, Gunnar Gundy gives us the best opportunity of establishing the running game, then that's the dude. I mean, nobody's really separated themselves yet. That's what it is. I'd say, Gunnar controls the offense a little bit better than the other two, but he has a lot less of an upside. Alan Bowman has a really good arm, but he takes unnecessary risk, throwing off his back foot and some of the off-platform stuff that he does. Stares down his receivers. I mean, Garrett stared down his receivers a little bit too. You don't expect that out of somebody like an Alan Bowman, though, right? Being in college football for this long. No, it's a game of chess, or it could be at the end of the day. If we roll out against Kansas State with our starting running back, starting quarterback, starting everything, and we're not doing, this unnecessary rotation at certain positions, and we beat Kansas State, then everybody will look back at all this crap fest and say, oh, well, it was ugly, but at least it had a point, right? At least we get to reap the benefits of it. Now, if we do all of this and we lose to Iowa State, then there's a problem. Guys, this is a bold season by Mike Gundy. He didn't fire anybody. We had our worst year in 17 years. Nobody gets fired. So if you back your horses and you keep them in the stable, when it's time for them to bust out, they better be ready to rock and roll. So far, you haven't seen it out of any of them. Maybe McIndoe. Maybe McIndoe. But we're not giving the tight ends the ball, so we don't really know. They look better. They look to be open, but they're still either not part of the main 4 reads or we're purposely holding back what they can do, right? I don't know about all that one. Oh, we got to get to picks. I do know we went 22-7. You know what? I'm actually pretty happy. I'm pretty happy with this round of picks. Not just because I made money, but I think the Big 12 looked pretty good. You know, Kansas, they beat up Illinois pretty good. Their offense was innovative. You know, Baylor almost got a dub over Utah, even though we picked Utah. We picked Wreckham Taco Tech. That one didn't work out. As far as the Big 12 goes, yeah. One of my worst picks was definitely Houston over Rice. That didn't feel very good. Let's go to not top 25 FBS. Yeah, we went 12-2 in the Big 12. I picked Texas. We picked Florida State. We picked Penn State, Washington. We picked NC State, lost that one. Picked K-State. Picked Washington State. We picked Ole Miss. We picked Colorado. We picked Miami. That was the other one on my four-leg parlay that won me like $8. We picked Wake Forest. Picked BYU. We picked Iowa. We picked UTSA, even though I almost did not. I went back and forth quite a bit on that one. Let's see. West Virginia. Yeah. Cincinnati is there. UCF won. Yeah, we got that. I had Arizona over Mississippi State. That went to overtime, so I was almost right, but not quite. We also had San Diego State over UCLA. San Diego State got beat up pretty good, so I was definitely wrong about that one. But yeah, we got a lot right. We got 22-7, 12-2 in the Big 12. I don't know what that. I should have done the math. I'll do the math next time. Anywho, oh yes, for y'all that stuck around, the OU thing. This is good. You're gonna want to hear this, okay? The hypocrisy is crazy. And for all the people that are like up in arms about Art Briles being on the OU sidelines, if you're an OU fan, you should probably shut that down real quick, fast, and in a hurry. He fits right at home on the OU sidelines. What are we talking about? This is the same OU. Boomer Sooner means illegal land thieves, right? Come on now. Any OU fan out there pretending that Art Briles on the sidelines is a bad look, right? This is the same people that fired Cale Gundy for reading lyrics, even though, you know, obviously he shouldn't have read any daggone thing. But a lot of the current players still wanted him on the roster. Most of all the current or former players still wanted him on the staff. But you'll fire that guy and bring Art Briles in. That's because that is OU. This is OU. It always has been. It always will be. This is the same OU that kept Cortez Johnson and Jalen Saunders getting caught with jugs. This is the same OU that kept Ramondre Stevenson and Trajan Bridges after they failed drug tests. This is the same OU that then let Trajan Bridges stay on the team after he threatened to murder somebody. And then him and Seth McCown jumped and robbed a drug dealer And then Frank Shannon was found to have committed sexual misconduct by Oklahoma's Title IX investigations. And then Oklahoma Title IX recommended his complete expulsion from the university. But winning games is more important than Norman, than campus safety. So what did they do? They just gave him a suspension. D.D. Westbrook, he was a star, right? He had 2 criminal charges of domestic violence that forced him to kind of take the JUCO route. When it was brought up to Bob Stoops while he was at OU, Bob Stoops tried to claim that they had no clue of any of it and that none of it came up on his background check, so they thought he was all good to go. This is the same OU that let Joe Mixon back on the team after he knocked a chick out cold. I don't care what's being said. That is the most worthless. You're a giant China doll. You're going to punch women. And then the OU backs him up. Of course OU does. You remember Dorial Green Beckham, right? The 5-star wide receiver that had Oklahoma State in his top 5 coming out of high school, chose Mizzou instead, goes to Mizzou. What happens at Mizzou? He gets kicked off the team for throwing a girl down the stairs. And then, the police quoted that the case was eventually closed because, and this is a direct quote from the police department, citing reluctant witnesses fearing in retaliation. And then OU backed his the thing that you sent into the NCAA, right, to try to get back a reinstation or whatever it was. OU backed him on it. OU tried to get the NCAA to let him come to OU. That is OU. This is OU. So OU fans pretending that Art Briles being on the sidelines is not a good look, get out of here. Miss me with that bull honky. Because y'all didn't care when all that other stuff was happening. Because you win in games. I hate the disingenuous nature that OU fans are running around pretending that they live in right now. It's infuriating. It's bothersome. Sorry this was a long one. It's all we're going to have for this. As always, I love you. God bless. Go Pokes. And thank you for tuning in once again to make this your first listen here on Locked On Oklahoma State. Y'all could go anywhere. So happy you choose to be here. Like it, share it, comment, subscribe, all of that fun jazz. All righty, y'all. Later, taters.